At this point now, we have our client and our server are talking back and forth. And that's great. We're sharing information. I can send information to the server. I can get information back from the server. That means I can make a series of requests. I can ask for different things. I can, basically get different information. So we'll come back to that in a second. But the bigger issue we want to solve right now is our server is one shot only, which means every time I have a client, I have to start up a new server, which at that point, why the heck would I even have these two bits of information? Can you imagine if every time a customer service representative answered a phone call and completed it, they hung up and went home? That would make no sense. I'd have to have 1,000 employees an hour coming in. So what I want to do instead is I want my server to be persistent. So how do you make something stay alive? How do you make something do something more than once? Well, the answer is looping. We just have it do stuff one more over and over and over again. So if I do a big loop around everything, is that going to be what we want? Well, no. I mean, I can actually just show you here. I can say while true. That's the easiest way. Just have it loop forever inside of here. And if I do this, oops, I didn't want to do that. I'm going to select all these and I'm going to hit tab. That kicks it all over a little bit. So that way I can have my structure look right. So I do while true. And this looks like it probably will work, but it's really kind of a heavy-handed way, so I can run it. And so my server's starting up, it's hanging out there, and then I can go to my client, and I can say run client, and the client ran just fine, and the server says starting up all over again. Right, perfect. Well, it works because I close the connection every single time. So what happens is I'm essentially shutting down and restarting my server socket every single time. This design could work, but it's kind of like saying I'm going to start up a company, I'm going to get service with the phone company, and then every time somebody calls in, I'm going to cancel my service with the phone company, then start up all over again. It's overkill. It's inefficient, and probably worse, it runs the risk of, in that little bit of time where I shut down and start back up, somebody else could steal my phone number. So I don't want to loop around everything. I want to loop around everything not including the server socket. And so what I can do is I can just take these two lines of code and kick them up here. And again, I'm going to select these two lines of code, hit Shift and Tab, and move them over like that. So when I start up my server, I'm going to open up my telephone connection. And then I'm going to loop and deal with one incoming call. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to manage that connection, and I'm going to read the line and everything else like that. But I don't want to close it here. I need to kick that outside of here as well. So while true, I'll actually never get to this line of code. I'm actually going to comment out this line of code. We'll come back to that line of code in a little bit. But I'm going to comment it out for now. So this is essentially the same thing. Now, if I look up here, run, you can see my server's still running. I have to stop it. I can run my server again, and again, it says starting up. And then if I run the client, run file, it runs just fine, and the server's still running. So I got hello server, got many things to say. I can go run my client again. It goes all the way through, thanks for the comment, and the server's still running. It still has stuff to say. All right, so this is a small little advancement to our server. The good news is, as long as your server's up and running, you don't have to make any changes. You never have to stop it. The bad news is that, well, your server's up and running, and if you have to make any changes, you have to stop it. So I can say run, stop to kill it anytime I want to. How do I kind of get around that? Well, there's a couple options. One of the options is I can put a little GUI inside of this. So I could go to my server in here, and I could basically build a little pop-up window, or not pop-up window, like a little JFrame inside of here. So I could say JFrame window is equal to a new JFrame. All right, and then I can put a title inside of there. This is the server control or something like that. And then window dot set bounds. So let's set a bound. Set bounds. So I need to set it to, let's make it 100 by 50. Oh, that's the location. That's fine. We'll just do that for both of them. 150, 150. Right there. Window dot I'm sorry, set visible true. And window dot. So we make it. We set the size. We set the location, and that set default close operation to be jframe dot exit on close. So what we're going to do is say, hey, when somebody hits the X button, close the application, make it this big, and show it. And so when I do this now, and I go run my server, I'm going to get a little pop-up box, which shows up on my other screen since I'm two windows. You can see there's my server control. So my server's up and running. I can go run my client. It runs the client just fine. I can run my client again, keep running my client, debug stuff. At some point when I want to finish this, I can exit this out, and then my server kills and dies at that point. So a little advancement to the server. We're kind of cleaning up the server here to give us some extra little features. Not required. It's just a nice to have, so that way you don't have to kill the application each time. And if you wanted to, you can actually, instead of system.out.println, you could put those messages into the server, as we'll see as we get more advanced here. So lots of cool things we can do to enhance our server, the most important of which is keep it up as a perpetual client. We'll continue to enhance this back and forth. We need to do it for both client and server now. But for now, this is a good little enhancement. So we'll leave it here, and we'll come back to enhancing our little basic application in a future video.